So, and here, you're all painters?
No, we're all very artists.
Yeah. The central thing that unites us is we're part of the movement Intentists that we mentioned to you yesterday.
So I'll throw it to you to explain to these people what your movement is. Intentionism.
Intentism.
And then we met yesterday, and I said that I would talk this evening, but also
Sorry, no.
I talk this evening, but the only thing is I have to leave at 10 to 8 because I need to wash and I'm going out for dinner at 8. So let's just, why don't I just first say what were the questions you've got? Because, I'm working on this and we've started to have a discussion because it's just about the technique.
Yeah.
And then we'll go round and then we'll open it up and we can hear why you formed yourselves into a group. And then you can ask me questions.
Sure, that sounds good.
All right. So, any general questions?
Where are the clouds?
Clouds. They're too difficult to do. So, don't do clouds. Don't do anything that blows in the wind. If you can't do it with a ruler, I don't do it.
How long is the process? This one, for example.
How long? Okay.
From start to finish.
Start to finish, about 2 years. And I work in a workshop these days that I will have assistants, and with this there were 4 of us for 2 years. So I have for want of a much better word, I have the concept of what I want to paint. So I decided I want to make a painting of Zurich. I was then lucky enough to find a client that wanted a painting of Zurich because I had no private income, and to take up 2 years of your life with 4 assistants and a studio and cost of materials, I had to think, how the hell can I make this happen? And I've just been unbelievably lucky. Since I was about 21 and left the Royal College, I've managed to live off my work, apart from about 15 years where, to begin with, I was using teaching as the means of painting. And in those days, in the 70s, if you left the Royal College with a degree, you might be sought after to teach in an art school, and from 3 days teaching, you could actually live and work for 4 days. It's now changed. So, going back to this one, 4 of us, 2 years, and the process will be me deciding what we want to paint, me coming up with the view, the picture, and then I will work with others and we will make a drawing. Now, this was the beginning of using a vinyl to make our stencils. And I spray everything, and the reason I spray everything is because I want to remove the hand mark, and that was partly to remove the ego, because it's very easy to become self-indulgent about pushing your hand around, and literally you're not just making mud pies, you're leaving your hand mark behind. You're saying, I was here. It's graffiti at its most basic, but it's often to do with making your mark. And I wanted the mark to be more important than having made it, which is possibly relevant to some of your concerns.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because this is what we've ended up with, is a very individualistic style. It's quite an identity.
It's perverse, isn't it? Yes, so in trying to make my work almost the product of a factory or a mechanical process, because I've been fairly obsessive about it, it's become very personal, as you say. And it's almost a style which not a lot of people are following because it's not very practical. How many people, if we move to this one, how many people could spend 3 years with 6 assistants and know that at the end they'll be warm and dry and they've been fed for 3 years? And I was just very lucky that a museum was prepared to actually commission it and pay our money to get through that. But I've always been driven by two things. The one, the need to make something. I have to make something. Without making something, I don't exist, which is perhaps a very sad reflection on me, that I don't exist without something. I actually believe in meditation, and I'm very intrigued by the world of Buddhism. But to sit under a tree, I don't think I would reach realization, or I wouldn't transcend the material. I need, on the physical, I need to do it through the material.
So would you say that by having an original idea,
Yes.
for creating these pieces, these intricate, wonderful pieces, the journey from the beginning to the very end when the piece is final, would you say that's the kind of the way you strive towards, the way you create your work?
Yes, it's that process that I struggle and strive to make.
And how important is that process to you then?
That's everything.
Yeah.
The end work is of
So
very
creation.
little interest to me. It's the byproduct of the process, and it's the process that I struggle to acquire. Also, it's become important to me in these works that I work with a team, and it's also part of the success of these paintings are the number of people that I involved. So this painting, I had 6 people working full time, but I was also lucky enough to be able to ask students to come in and work with me. And there was one occasion when we had to paint the River Mersey. I worked through these stencils, and there were 7 stencils to make up the Mersey, 15 feet wide, 5 meters, and you have to remove all the bits you're going to spray through. We realized that it was 10 days before we went up to Liverpool, and there's no way I could spray an area like that in a museum, because we were doing what we're doing, working in public. We had 100 days work to do, so we knew we were in trouble. So I got on the phone, I phoned 5 art schools. We got in about 10 people a day to work, and because it was new to them, they worked very slowly, but in 8 days we did. And what was special is a group of 10 people a day working on either side of a table, totally absorbed in making one object. The fact that it was a Ben Jonson painting was totally immaterial. It was all about everybody working, 1 to a target and 2 to an object which was going to be seen publicly. And that to me was very special. And
would you say, so it's not, the pictures we see aren't so much the art, but you and the people doing them and people seeing you do it is the art?
I think that's right. What I produce is the byproduct of the working process, and that is what most people will say is art. For me, the art lies in the making. So process is everything, but process in itself doesn't constitute a work of art. Because I spend 3 years with 6 people, or 35 people in the end worked on this, the sheer volume of the work doesn't qualify it to become a piece of art. There are people that can make a piece of art in 1 minute. And I think that that is to do with their own personal talent and the intention of their gesture. And I think that this is an incredible collection within the National Gallery. And I think what one is experiencing most of the time is honesty and intention at its very highest level. And by saying at its very highest level, I don't mean it's ambition for self-promotion. It's an ambition to actually be as basic as possible and touch something, a real raw nerve, to be driven to answer a question that nags at you. And I think a good work of art is the product of asking the right question at the right time and applying the right amount of concentration.
Why do you think there's such a good crowd, isn't it? All asking questions, all interested. And when you're working on the paintings, there's many people wanting to find out what's happening and looking at your process. Why do you think that today, and in the past as well, so many people are interested in the mind and the intention of an artist? I remember when I spoke to you yesterday, you mentioned Holborn and the ambassadors and what the skull being kind of elongated, and people are intrigued about what the artist was intending. Why do we still have that desire to find out rather than just by looking at the work and forgetting the artist?
Well, I think that sometimes we talk about a genius and we say, aren't they extraordinary? That sums it up for me. Genius is extraordinary. I think what people respond to is the sheer simplicity of any great work of art. It's what we could all do if only we applied ourselves to it. And of course, art is much broader than just painting a picture or writing a piece of music. I think baking a cake is something pretty special. And there are some people that can turn that into a work of genius and satisfy a hunger and a need. And there are other people that can move their bodies in such a way that you stand and watch them in awe. Or a comedian that has that gift of timing that can turn a ridiculous remark into something that lifts your spirit. So what I think we see in many great works and gestures of people is people just not afraid of their own image of themselves, people that are prepared to take a chance and a risk of making a fool of themselves. But of course they never make a fool of themselves, because deep down nobody is foolish. The only foolishness would be to hold ourselves back from expressing ourselves. And I think that everybody is talented and everybody has extraordinary skills, and we need to open that up, and that's why museums are more and more important, and we must have public access to them. They mustn't become privileged places. We need to realize that everything we see in a museum is the byproduct of somebody having an idea and getting their hands dirty, thinking a bit further, pushing the boundaries, or accepting traditions and working within traditions. Because we do have a problem that, let's say we take the National Gallery and what I'm doing here.